G'day YouTube. From Haynes, the same people who gave us the workshop manual for all marks of Spitfires as a coffee table hardcover gift book, we now review the owner's workshop manual for the Imperial Death Star, the DS-1 Orbital battle station, which I'm sure most of us can recall from having watched the movie Star Wars or its sequels or post-dated prequels. This was, of course, the joke Christmas present from my son, purely to balance up the enjoyment that he knew I would get from the Supermarine Spitfire workshop manual. When first regarding the table of contents, it looks pretty promising. History of the Death Star, the weapons and defensive systems, energy and propulsion, hangar bays, city sprawls and trenches, security systems, service and technical sections, command section, Death Star 2, comparison chart. So you'd think you're going to get a fair bit of information about how the Death Star is put together and how to maintain it. What you get is to His Imperial Majesty from Governor Tarkin regarding increasing the security of the Empire, to Grand Moff Tarkin from the Imperial Advisor, re danger for the Emperor, regarding the Tarkin Doctrine. So somebody who's spent decades immersing themselves in thinking about Star Wars has put this thing together. They have imagined the history of the construction and of the bureaucratic process that caused the construction to occur. They've illustrated their musings with cartoons and airbrushed paintings, and they've dreamed up specifications for vehicles which never have existed and, according to known scientific and engineering techniques, never will exist. I admit this is a detailed fantasy, and the fact that it was sold to millions, if not billions, of moviegoers all around the world doesn't stop it from being a fantasy. This Death Star, according to its specifications, 120 kilometres in diameter. It's a hyperdrive class 4 with a hyperdrive backup class 20. It is equipped with shielding. Its navigation is by Navi computer. The armament consists of one super laser, 15,000 Tame and Biak D6 turbo laser batteries, 2,500 Borstal Galactic Defence S8 or SB920 laser cannons, 2,500 Borstai MS ion cannons, 768 Phylon tractor beam emplacements, 11,000 combat vehicles. We have a crew of 342,953, that's 285,675 operational staff, and 57,278 gunners, 843,342 passengers, a cargo capacity of over 1 million kilotons, consumables for 3 years, and the cost is unknown. So we haven't got a particularly detailed fantasy after all. What we've got is some pretty pictures and some fairy floss and prosaic fluff with all the details vaguely sketched in pencil so they can be altered later. We have some imaginative but actually extremely uninformative cutaway drawings, a caricature of what you'd find in an actual technical manual, perhaps the sort of stuff that you'd find in books on fighter aircraft written for teenagers in order to motivate them to want to join the Air Force. Nothing which actually tells you how to build a Death Star, because nobody knows how to build a Death Star. And while I'm sure there are Star Wars junkies, Darth Vader aficionados, teeny boppers who are in love with Luke Skywalker, and the idea of R2-D2. I just don't think that this is quite funny enough, certainly not detailed enough to be actually that interesting. You know, you get very tired of it very quickly. Maybe the first 15 pages you might look at, and then you flip to the back and have a look and you see that it doesn't actually get any better. It's the sort of thing that I'm glad to receive it as a present, but I would never go and buy it. Whereas if I'd seen that on the shop shelf, I probably would have bought it. And I did, in fact, buy that. So, yeah, I think you'd have to call this a Hollywood fail. I don't know whether it's happened since the Disney Corporation purchased the Star Wars brand name. I think this is interesting. Whoever dreamed up the weapons for the Star Wars movies was obviously a bit of an aficionado of the German broom handle Mauser from before the First World War, and they were an even bigger fan of the German MG42, which later was remanufactured with different serial numbers as the American M60 machine gun. Quite startling to find the MG42 and the broom handle Mauser in there as standard weapons for the troopers on the Death Star. But yeah, apart from that, finding World War II Nazi weaponry issued to the Starship Troopers or Stormtroopers or whatever they want to call them, I'd have to say this is a bit of a tedious and tawdry effort. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.